Good afternoon. I'd like to call today's meeting of the Assembly Committee on Natural Resources to order. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Assemblywoman Anderson. Assemblywoman Black. Assemblywoman Brown May. Assemblywoman Carlton. Assemblywoman Cohen. Assemblyman Ellison. Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Assemblywoman Hanson. Assemblywoman Martinez. Assemblywoman Titus. Assemblyman Wheeler. Chair Watts.
Here. Thank you very much. We do have a quorum. Please mark the other members present as they arrive. I know they are finishing up other committee meetings. It's that time of session. I'd like to welcome everybody in the audience, both in person and online, to our committee today. I'll go through just a couple of quick housekeeping announcements as usual. In order to participate either in person or remotely, you must register on the Nevada Legislature's website. You can find information on how to do so on the website or on any meeting agenda for this committee that is posted. Please make sure to submit all exhibits or amendments in PDF form the business day prior to our meeting. All exhibits that are submitted can be found on the Nevada Legislature's website. And we will be asking that folks providing testimony or public comment limit their remarks to 2 minutes so that we can accommodate all speakers and get through the agenda in a timely manner. With that, we are going to move on to our agenda today. We're going to start with our work session. We have 4 bills up for work session today. The first bill that we're going to do is SB 23, which revises provisions relating to the State Conservation Commission. Just as a reminder, we don't typically take testimony during our work session. However, we may call upon bill sponsors or others to clarify any questions that arise. So with that, Mr. Stinisbeck, our policy analyst, will walk us through the work session document for SB 23. Please proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Jan Stinisbeck with the Research Division of LCB. As Center Nonpartisan Staff, I cannot advocate for or against any measure comes before this committee. Senate Bill 23 was heard in this committee on April 21st. It revised the boundaries of the areas from which certain members of the State Conservation Commission are appointed. The bill moves Mineral County from Area 3, which includes Clark, Esmeralda, Lincoln, Nye, and White Pine counties, to Area 2, which includes Carson City and Churchill, Douglas, Lyon, Story, and Washoe counties. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Stinisbeck on SB 23? Okay, let me check all the chats here. Also, it just works now that we're in person, you can just flag me down. Seeing no questions, I would accept a motion to do pass SB 23. Thank you. I've got a motion from Assemblyman Wheeler. I've got a second from Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously of the members present. And I will assign the floor statement to Assemblyman Wheeler.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Since that is actually Assemblywoman Titus's district, I would assume she got red.
Very thoughtful. Thank you. I will assign the floor statement to Assemblywoman Titus. With that, we'll move on to the work session on Senate Bill 52, which requires the establishment of a program for awarding a dark sky designation to certain sites in this state. Mr. Stinisbeck, please lead us through the work session document for this bill whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Jan Stinisbeck with the Research Division. Senate Bill 52 was heard in this committee on April 26th. It requires the administrator of the Division of Outdoor Recreation to establish by regulation a program for awarding a dark sky designation. The regulation must include categories and standards for awarding such a designation and procedures for applying for such a designation, for reviewing and suspending or revoking such a designation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Stinisbeck. Any questions on SB 52? We'll start with Mr. Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Even though I like the idea of the dark area, the problem I have is in around some communities that does have outside illumination for security. I'm going to be voting no on this. I'm hoping that each county individually creates their own based on security around buildings and stuff like this. They get around the ranch area, they could say, hey, no lights, no nothing, and I think that might be a problem. It might be able to something to be worked out, but until that gets worked out, I'm going to be a no. Thank you.
Thank you, and I believe it was discussed in this presentation that this would be left up to each local agency and does not prohibit the use of lights for security. So I just wanted to make sure that that's clear for the record. Assemblywoman Titus?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate your qualifications. I was going to make the comment that during the testimony, we did indeed hear that it was going to be up to a vote of the local areas, whether they wanted to do this or not, but a vote means that it's a majority of a certain group in an area, and perhaps individual property owners may not want it, although the majority in their neighborhood may. So I'm worried about individual property owner rights, and so I will be a no when we do get to the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments or questions? Seeing none, I would accept a motion to do pass Senate Bill 52. Thank you. I believe that was a motion from Assemblywoman Anderson and a second from Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Oh, I have a motion. We'll just keep it that way. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Nay. Can the nays please raise their hands? So we have a nay from Assemblywoman Titus, Assemblywoman Black, Assemblywoman Hanson, Assemblyman Wheeler, and Assemblyman Ellison. That motion does carry. With that, we'll move on to the next item on our work session, which is Senate Bill 53, which makes various changes relating to the Division of State Parks of the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. Mr. Stinisbeck, would you please lead us through this work session document?
Yes, thank you, Chair. For the record, again, Jan Stinisbeck. Senate Bill 53 was heard in this committee on April 21st. It authorized the administrator of the Division of State Parks to organize the areas under the jurisdiction of the division into regions. If such regions are established, fees collected in each region must be accounted for separately and be used for certain purposes in the region in which the money was collected. The authorized use of such fees is expanded to include the repair, operation, and maintenance of communication systems. The measure further expands the authorization to collect such fees at any area under jurisdiction of the division instead of only its state parks. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, do we have any questions on Senate Bill 53? Mr. Ellison.
Thank you, sir. And when I started reading the bill, I looked on the digest back on Nellis, and it's showing that the bill come out 21-0, but it says 0 fiscal no, but yet on the bill itself, it says it's a 2/3 bill.
Thank you for that question, Assemblyman Ellison. I can speak to that. The reason that the fiscal note exists is because it expands the authority for the collection of the fee in statute from just state parks to cover other facilities. And as an example, that includes other things that are within state parks, including state recreation areas, historic sites such as the Elgin Schoolhouse, and region offices and the main office where these fees are collected. This is updating the statute to reflect that reality, and not every place where a fee is collected is a state park per se, even though it's administered by the division. As a result of that language change, it has a 2/3 on the bill. Thank you. Assemblywoman Titus.
Thank you for that clarification. I actually wondered about, and maybe legal could help us if they're available or willing. And I'm sorry I missed this during the hearing, but and I appreciated your comment that expanded what areas could perhaps charge a fee. But under that section 2 of this bill, it talks about we could charge a fee for repair, operation, and maintenance of sewer, water, and communication. That new language, that's not the separate fee, it's just that these fees could be used for communication purposes. Is that what I'm understanding? So it's not a new fee. It could be used to pay for like a Wi-Fi system or something along those lines.
Thank you for that question, Assemblywoman. I think that particular question may be best answered by the agency. I believe it was indicated during testimony that that is a specific amount, but that it is rolled into the fees that are already charged. And the intent that the agency provided was that, yes, this is not adding any new fees anywhere, that this is already incorporated into the existing fee schedules for the division. And I would turn it over to the division if there's anything that they'd like to add.
Thank you, Chair Watts. Jonathan Brunges for the record, and happy to answer that question. That's correct. There's no new fees being added to our park visitors. Again, we're already collecting this fee, and that surcharge, if you will, the $1 for entry goes into account that is used for the infrastructure of the parks, the electrical, the water, sewer, and communications, and it's typically used to repair existing infrastructure with those funds that are collected.
Thank you. Any additional questions on SB 53? Seeing none, I would accept a motion to do pass. I've got a motion from Vice Chair Cohen. Second from Assemblywoman Carlton. Any discussion on the motion? Assemblywoman Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will vote this measure out of committee, but reserve my right to change on the floor.
Thank you. And as always, you always maintain your rights. Please do let me know if your vote is going to change before we get to the floor. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. We have a nay from Mr. Ellison. Thank you. With that, the motion carries. That brings us to the last item on our work session for today, which is SB 65, which revises provisions relating to the State Department of Agriculture. Mr. Stinisbeck, whenever you're ready, please walk us through the work session document for this bill.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Ken Stinisbeck. Senate Bill 65 was heard in this committee on April 21st. It provides provisions relating to the composition and administration of the State Department of Agriculture. The measure creates 4 divisions within the department as follows: Division of Administrative Services, Division of Animal Industry, Division of Food and Nutrition, and Division of Plant Health and Compliance. The name of the existing 5th division is changed from the Division of Consumer Equitability to the Division of Measurement Standards. And finally, the bill assigns the title of State Veterinarian to the existing position within the department that is responsible for activities relating to the protection and promotion of the livestock industry, and revise the minimum qualification for the position. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions on SB 65? Seeing none, I would accept. Assemblyman Ellison, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know we got an expert here in the room, but the appointee the administrator does, how does he pick these individuals that'll be sitting on this board? It says Division of Administrative Services, Animal Industry, Food and Natural Measurement Standards. Is this just at large, or is this going to be administrative people? Like somebody that's already employed by the state, or is this going to be at large seats?
I'll let the Director Ott, if you'd like to respond to Assemblyman Ellison's question.
Thank you, Chairman Watts. Jennifer Ott for the record. The positions that are in the bill are already existing. We're just changing the names and cleaning up the language. So there will be no empty seats.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you, Chairman. And I wasn't here for the hearing, but I did watch it, and so I had a couple questions, so I apologize. This is when you're going to get my questions. I just want to clarify, based on the testimony I heard from you, Director Ott, that in striking some of the verbiage in, I think it was Section 9, that had to do with, it was Section 9, that is now regarding range issues, it's going to fall under, let me flip to it. It's going to fall under the, what was it, the new language, Division of Plant Health and Compliance. And then for the feral horses, you noted NRS 569, but it will fall under the Division of Animal Industry. Did I understand that correctly? Director Ott?
Chairman, may I?
Yes, please do, Director.
Okay, so thank you, Assemblywoman Hanson. Yes, so the feral livestock issue will remain underneath the animal industry where it has existed. And plant health and compliance will be, the natural resources portion is normally handled under the plant industry. We're changing it to plant health and compliance. We're changing the name there, but it's in pretty serious collaboration with the animal industry, obviously. So we do collaborate within the divisions.
Thank you for that. And then regarding the state veterinarian, I know there had been some discussion that you're not going to require it. When you go to recruit, there was some question about we're not putting that in the recruitment. But you do require them as part of the hiring process to be licensed, but that it wasn't put in statute. Is there any consideration that, would it be appropriate maybe to amend that maybe before the floor? That, do you think we should have that in there to kind of spell it out, that it is expected that they would be licensed in that section? Or am I,
Jennifer,
or I'm not, go ahead.
Apologies, I didn't mean to cut you off. Jennifer Ott for the record. I'm happy to consider amendment. I sent an email to the chairman that I'm happy to consider amendment if there's concerns on this. We don't see it. I mean, the veterinarian, because the state veterinarian, because of the work they do, does obviously have to be licensed. There were some questions about putting the licensure requirement in statute. And the reason why we opted not to do that is because we wanted to be able to recruit out of state or even out of country for a state veterinarian with really great experience. And that then, as part of accepting the job or within a certain timeline of accepting the job, that they would have to pass everything that needs to be in place to receive licensure by the state of Nevada to be a veterinarian license. So that is why we opted to do that this way, but I will follow the direction of the chair as far as the amendment.
And I'm sorry, I know we're not supposed to rehear a bill. That maybe would just be my request, Chair, that maybe we could talk offline of, I get the whole purpose in the recruitment process or in the hiring verbiage, but maybe to have it in statute might just be, give us some comfort. So thank you for the consideration.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Carlton, or go ahead.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman, but if you're going to act as a veterinarian in this state, you'd be out of your scope of practice if you didn't become licensed. So it's kind of a chicken and an egg sort of thing. I mean, we don't want to require a license to recruit because we want to give people time to comply once they get here. But if they're going to do the function, they would have to become licensed in the state. So I think even if you look at the statute being silent, it has to happen. Otherwise, they can't call themselves a veterinarian in this state.
Thank you for that, Assemblywoman Carlton. And I would just also add that hearing the intent from the agency, I think, is is satisfactory. If there are any issues that come up, I believe that we could address them moving forward, but the agency has been quite clear on their record about the intent to ensure that whoever is hired for this position does end up licensed, and that the intent is to assist us in recruiting the most qualified possible candidate, which we have seen other bills modify some of the requirements in order to attract diverse and qualified hires. Assemblywoman Titus, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for that clarification, because I too had the concerns during the hearing and did ask that question, and I appreciated that the intent was that indeed this person would have to be a licensed veterinarian ultimately. I worry about the obstacles to licensure and the time it takes, and as a physician it can take 6 months and sometimes longer, and we know that in other professional organizations or agencies or licensure process that there's a delay, and being able to recruit somebody who otherwise to be sure that they meet all the other qualifications for licensure, that then ultimately they can get licensed in the state. I think I certainly had my reservations, but I'm reassured to get the legislative intent on record. So thank you, Director Ott.
Thank you very much for the questions and the clarification that was provided. Are there any additional questions on SB 65? Mr. Ellison, a very quick follow-up. Go ahead.
Yes, follow-up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for calling on me twice. When I'm looking through here, maybe I'm getting confused, and that's pretty often lately, is when I'm looking through section 2, but I look back here and I look through section number 12 and 13. It says measurement standards, and then it says Department of Ag. Is them divisions still stay in the Department of Ag, and are they still administering all these programs, or is that being changed?
Thank you for that question, Assemblyman Ellison. I believe I can answer that. Essentially, these are renamings, and all of these divisions would remain within the Department of Agriculture.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I would accept a motion to do pass SB 65. Got a motion from Assemblywoman Martinez and a second from Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. Motion passes unanimously of the members present. And with that, I have neglected to assign floor statements. So with that, I will assign the floor statement on SB 65 to Assemblywoman Brown May. I'll assign the floor statement on SB 52 to Assemblywoman Anderson. And I'll assign the floor statement on SB 53 to Assemblywoman Gonzalez. All right. Thank you, everybody. With that, that concludes our work session for today. We'll now move on to our bill hearings. We have 3 bills up, and I think we'll just take them in order today. So with that, we'll begin with SB 33, which revises certain provisions relating to natural resource management. I see that we have the State Forester Fire Warden with us, so whenever you're ready, you may proceed with the presentation for the bill.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Watts, members of the committee. I'm Casey Casey, State Forester Fire Warden for the Nevada Division of Forestry. Thank you for having me here today to provide testimony on the first reprint of Senate Bill 33. This bill makes revisions to NRS 472 and 528, which are 2 statutes that provide NDF's primary work focus and define its mission of providing natural resource and wildland fire management services to Nevada citizens and visitors to enhance, conserve, and protect forest, rangeland, and watershed values, endangered plants, and other native flora. Senate Bill 33 provides better statutory alignment for NDF between the work staff perform and the landscapes in which they work. Nevada is the most arid state in the U.S. Consequently, much of the state's landscapes are comprised of plant species adapted to low amounts of precipitation in low-lying valleys and steppes. These landscapes are classified as deserts or rangelands, the exception being forests on higher elevation mountain ranges. NDF's natural resource managers provide assistance to landowners regardless of vegetation type. Improving conditions in forests, rangelands, deserts, wetlands, and other vegetation types has and will continue to be the focus of NDF. Senate Bill 33 clarifies that NDF is not solely focused on forest management, but that NDF manages all the varied renewable natural resources found across Nevada. In addition, Senate Bill 33 expands the identified uses for NDF's nursery produced plants to include practices like xeriscaping, water conservation, providing wildlife habitat, and sustaining local economies. NDF has a conservation plant material program that enhances its ability to provide conservation plant materials and technical natural resource assistance and support to Nevada citizens. NDF operates 2 plant nurseries, one in Las Vegas and one in Washoe Valley, and a seed bank in Washoe Valley in this program. Statute requires NDF plants to be used for conservation purposes. Since the establishment of the program, the science of natural resource conservation has evolved and to include values previously not considered. Finally, SB 33 strikes artifacts from NRS 472, for which the state forester fire warden no longer has jurisdictional responsibility. Prior to the abolishment of NRS 473 in the 76th session of the Nevada Legislature, NDF had the authority to run all risk fire protection districts through local government agreements with participating entities. With those jurisdictional authorities came the responsibility to oversee development and vegetation management standards within the districts. The abolishment of NRS 473 removed those responsibilities from the state forester fire warden and placed them back with local government fire protection districts. Thank you for your consideration of Senate Bill 33. I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your informative and concise presentation, Ms. Casey. Members, do we have any questions for the presenter of the bill? Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the quick rundown of the language. I have a question regarding an item that's being taken out. It's on page 8. It's section 10, it looks like 10.1G, and it specifies the Lake Tahoe Basin as well as the Lake Mead Basin. And I just want to make sure that that is still going to be regulated in a different area at the state level, or is it at the county level? Just because of how both of these lakes are very important to us as a state, but then also go into other areas.
Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman Anderson, through you, Chair. Are you looking at, there were 2 areas where it took out the Lake Tahoe Basin, Lake Tahoe and the Lake Mead Basins. First was on the cooperation with the state fire marshal of enforcing laws and adopting regulations. And so that would just be applicable across the state rather than just in those 2 basins. And then the codes and regulations under J, those will still be managed across the state. So that was just talking about the areas where originally it was the state forester fire warden having those enforcement abilities, and I don't have the enforcement capabilities. That is either handled at the state level through the state fire marshal or at local county jurisdictional levels for enforcement. So we would still all work in cooperation and coordination just across the entire state. So hopefully that answers your question.
It did. Thank you very much. That's what I thought it had to do with, but I just wanted to make sure just because of how important both of these areas are. So thank you very much for that clarification.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Along the same line on section 10, I too looked at this bill and went, well, who will be responsible for this? On section 10, number D, when it talks about you're no longer going to designate boundaries of each area of the state where the construction of buildings on forested land create a fire hazards, and the particular material for like roofing standards, et cetera. And so who does that? Well, so with that explanation, you're going to leave it up to local ordinances and local county codes and those kind of things to determine what's appropriate roofing, et cetera, and you'll be out of that entirely?
Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman Titus, Chair, through you. Yes, we would still work together. The state fire marshal has the authority through his statutes, and he's here to answer any questions from an adoption standpoint for some areas of the state, adoption and enforcements for some areas around the state. In addition, local government does have that jurisdictional responsibility. So adopting building codes, enforcing the wildland urban interface codes. So I don't have that ability to designate. I could say where they are, and we do work together on the designation of, say, wildland urban interface areas. But this just talks about the construction materials, which I don't have any jurisdictional responsibility over now that I no longer have all-risk fire departments. So that would be local governments in conjunction with the state fire marshal.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the question.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from members of the committee? Vice Chair Cohen.
Thank you, Chair. My question is in Section 5, the definition of urban forestry, and adding on the third line, and water quality to air quality. Can you give us an example of how urban forestry does impact and promote water quality in the state?
Thank you for the question, Vice Chair Cohen. Chair, through you. The water quality is affected by urban trees. There have been many studies done on the amount of urban tree canopy cover in urban areas and its effects not only on human health, but air quality, taking in the bad, making them better, as also water quality, though it does take water to water some of these plants. If the right plants are planted, it shouldn't be a ton of water. And it filters some of the bad things through the roots and the root systems. And so it allows for better water quality coming into and takes some of the runoff when you have these large incidents of flood conditions. So there's a lot of benefits for urban trees. They're kind of similar to what you would see in a forest, just at a much smaller scale. So there's a huge impact on urban trees on human health, and that's one of the focus areas of the division is urban trees.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, members? Seeing none, thank you. With that, we will now move on to testimony. We'll start with testimony in support of Senate Bill 33. And we'll start with the room. Seeing none in the room coming forward, we'll move to testimony in support remotely. Broadcast Production Services, can we see if anyone wishes to provide testimony in support?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on SB 33, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to testimony in opposition of SB 33. We'll start with the room. Seeing none, we'll move to testimony in opposition remotely. Broadcast Production Services, can we see if we have anyone in the queue?
To testify in opposition on SB 33, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. For those that have just joined the queue, we are in opposition on SB 33. If you would like to testify in opposition, please press *9 now. Caller with the last three digits, 938. Please press *6 to unmute. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the Assembly Natural Resources Committee. For the record, my name is Ariel Edwards, ARIELLEEDWARDS, with the City of North Las Vegas. At this time, we are in opposition to Senate Bill 33. It would be beneficial to us if there was, at a minimum, a 2-year extension for adopting the wildland-urban interface. We do, however, look forward to continued conversations about this measure. Thank you so much for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your testimony. We'll go on to the next caller wishing to provide testimony in opposition to SB 33.
Chair, there are no more callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. Finally, we'll move on to testimony in neutral on SB 33. Seeing nobody in the room, we'll move on to those wishing to provide testimony remotely. BPS.
To testify in neutral on SB 33, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you. With that, Ms. Casey, are there any closing remarks that you'd like to make?
Nope, just thank you for your time today and your consideration of this bill.
Thank you very much. With that, we will close the hearing on SB 33. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is SB 43, which revises provisions relating to the Advisory Board on Outdoor Recreation. I see we have Mr. Robertson joining us. Mr. Robertson, you may proceed with the presentation whenever you are ready.
Thank you so much, Chair Watts. Good afternoon, Chair Watts and members of the Assembly Committee on Natural Resources. For the record, my name is Colin Robertson, and I am the administrator of the new Nevada Division of Outdoor Recreation in the Nevada Department of Conservation and Natural Resources. I appreciate the opportunity to introduce and provide testimony in support of the first reprint of Senate Bill 43 today. Existing law, NRS 407A.575, establishes the Advisory Board on Outdoor Recreation, which consists of 11 voting members who advise the administrator of the Division of Outdoor Recreation on matters concerning outdoor recreation in Nevada. SB 43 proposes a simple change to NRS 407A.575 by adding 3 members to the existing 11-member Advisory Board. As articulated in reprint 1, the 3 additional members proposed are 1, a Nevada Association of Counties representative serving as a voting member, 2, a U.S. Department of the Interior representative serving as a non-voting member, and 3, a U.S. Department of Agriculture representative serving as a non-voting member. Each of these proposed members represents an important perspective regarding outdoor recreation in Nevada. The Nevada Association of Counties represents Nevada's counties and rural communities, which are gateways to some of Nevada's most beloved outdoor recreation sites and experiences. Combining knowledge of the county's comprehensive community and economic development strategies with conservation and recreation opportunities linked to the growth of outdoor recreation in Nevada is valuable. The significant economic, health, education, and conservation implications of outdoor recreation in Nevada are central to why this additional seat on the Advisory Board is important. Together, the U.S. Department of the Interior and the U.S. Department of Agriculture manage the majority of public lands in Nevada, totaling some 57 million of the state's 70 million acres overall. So many of Nevada's best recreation opportunities exist on lands managed by one of these 2 agencies. Therefore, these 3 perspectives are crucial to ensuring the Advisory Board broadly and effectively advises the Nevada Division of Outdoor Recreation on all matters concerning outdoor recreation throughout the state. With that overview, Chair Watts, I'm happy to answer any questions you and the committee may have. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Mr. Robertson. Members, do we have any questions for Mr. Robertson on SB 43? Assemblyman Ellison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Could you give me an idea on the makeup of the board and who sits on the board?
Chair Watts, through you, thank you for the question, Assemblyman Ellison. Colin Robertson for the record. Yes, sir, the Advisory Board on Outdoor Recreation is currently an 11-member board. 7 of the seats on that advisory board are named by statute, and 4 of the 4 additional seats are gubernatorial appointments representing 4 sectors, 4 key areas of outdoor recreation topics. They include conservation and stewardship, education and workforce training, health and wellness, and economic development or outdoor recreation oriented economic development. The 7 seats that are named by statute represent the Division of State Parks, the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, the Department of Wildlife, the Governor's Office of Economic Development, the Department of Tourism, and let's see, who am I missing? The Lieutenant Governor, Kate Marshall, and I believe I've named 7.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. That is impressive, listing them off the top of your head, and I believe you laid them out exactly as they are in statute. So thank you for that. Any additional questions? Vice Chair Cohen.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Robertson, I have a question on 1 sub A sub 8, Roman numeral 2. So the one member who has professional expertise or possesses demonstrated knowledge of outdoor recreation, natural resources, management, and economic development in the state. That sounds kind of like a big order. What profession would that person have? Or, I mean, I understand having a knowledge of outdoor recreation and resources as well, because those kind of go hand in hand. But then with economic development, that's kind of like those could be 3 separate things, even though they often overlap.
Thank you for the question, Chair Watts. Through you, Colin Robertson for the record. Thank you, Vice Chair Cohen, for the question. The intent here is to, as you may know from the 2019 session, the Division of Outdoor Recreation has a broad and diverse mission and purpose, and it's a very small agency, currently an agency of 1. And as a result, I think the positions need to be very, kind of very broad and encompassing. And the importance of Nevada's outdoor recreation economy to the overall economy of the state is something that ties very closely to those public lands, to the state's public lands, and to the natural resources that are in play when it comes to outdoor recreation because of, for conservation needs and so forth. So I would suggest that the intent is that this is an ideal candidate and someone probably with specific outdoor recreation experience either on the natural resources or the industry side of things.
All right, thank you for that. So if you had someone, for instance, who had an outdoor recreation business, that would cover the economic development portion. They wouldn't need to, for instance, be a member of a chamber or, having had worked for GOED or anything like that, that just kind of being in that field would cover it.
Chair Watts, through you, Colin Robertson, for the record. Thank you for the follow-up question, Vice Chair Cohen. Yes, the intent is not. The intent is, as you describe, just to provide someone with that kind of experience and expertise in the mix.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And just a brief follow-up on that for you, Mr. Robertson. Looking at the way this is laid out under the proposed bill, this would likely, I would think that many of our rural county commissioners often are dealing with many decisions related to all of these areas in terms of natural resources management, land management, economic development, and outdoor recreation. So likely with the involvement of NACO, we could see some county commissioners from these smaller areas that have a background in these areas. Is that something that was contemplated when the language was brought forward?
Chair Watts, Colin Robertson, for the record, thank you for the question. Yes, that is very much what the spirit has been. And to ensure that the pillars of the creation of the Division of Outdoor Recreation, which I outlined with the gubernatorial appointments, is something that's considered in every representative on the advisory board.
Thank you for that. Members, any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you again, Mr. Robertson, for your presentation. With that, we'll open up testimony on Senate Bill 43. We'll begin with testimony in support. First in the room. Seeing none, Broadcast Production Services, can we see if we have anyone wishing to provide testimony remotely?
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on SB 43, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last three digits, 863, please press *6 to unmute. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller with the last three digits, 863, please press *6 to unmute and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Watts and members of the committee. Dagny Stapleton, D-A-G-N-Y-S-T-A-P-L-E, excuse me, T-O-N. I'm the Executive Director of NACO, the Nevada Association of Counties. We are in favor of this bill, specifically Section 1, Subsection 8, which you have discussed. We understand the vision behind the Advisory Board on Outdoor Recreation to support outdoor recreation, the recreation economy, and conservation related to recreation in Nevada. And knowing that a significant portion of outdoor recreation happens in rural communities, our members agree that having representatives from rural Nevada, whose local economies and livelihoods interface with outdoor recreation and who are familiar with many of the recreation opportunities and natural resources out in Nevada is very important. Because NACO's board is made up of a representative from each county commission, including, of course, our 15 rural counties, we agree that NACO is the appropriate body to nominate and seek out appointees for this seat. We think that this also creates an opportunity for the board to coordinate with Nevada's counties. Our rural commissioners are very connected to their communities. It can help seek out candidates who have the qualifications outlined in the bill, including expertise and knowledge in outdoor recreation, natural resources management, and economic development. I just want to thank DCNR and Administrator Robertson for the conversations over the interim on this and for working with us and seeking our input on the bill. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Stapleton. We'll go on to the next caller wishing to provide testimony in support.
Caller with the last three digits, 433, please slowly state and spell your name for the record and you may begin.
Hello, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Amber Falgo. That is spelled A-M-B-E-R-F-A-L-G-O-U-T. I am the Northern Nevada Manager for Battleborn Progress. We are proud to say that we fully support Senate Bill 43. This bill will include a diverse partnership that will oversee our recreation needs in Nevada. Including the additional representatives will provide an opportunity for more support and discussion concerning outdoor recreation. We urge the committee to support this bill. Thank you very much for your time. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much for your comments. We'll move on to the next caller in support.
Chair, there are no more callers in support at this time.
Thank you. With that, we'll move on to opposition on SB 43. First in the room, seeing none. BPS, can we see if we have anyone wishing to provide opposition testimony remotely?
To testify in opposition on SB 43, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to testimony in neutral on SB 43. Seeing none in the room, BPS, can we see if we have anyone wishing to provide testimony remotely?
To testify in neutral on SB 43, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, it seems that there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you. With that, Administrator Robertson, is there anything else that you'd like to say in closing?
Chair Watts, Colin Robertson, for the record, I'd just like to say thank you for your consideration and the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you very much. With that, I will close the hearing on SB 43, and we will open the hearing on our last bill for today, which is SB 54, revising provisions relating to the State Board of Agriculture. And with that, welcome back, Director Ott. You may proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Ott, Director of the Department of Agriculture. Thank you for allowing me to appear before you today to present Senate Bill 54, which revises NRS 561.055, outlining the membership of the Board of Agriculture. The department is responsible for many aspects of the food supply chain, from planting and livestock production to food distribution. However, the composition of the board is focused heavily on production. The goal of the changes is to more closely align board positions to the industry currently funded or regulated by the department. To put it simply, we want everyone to have a voice on the important policy discussions of the board. The original bill requested 2 members, one experienced in supplemental nutrition distribution and a member experienced in food manufacturing or processing. The amendment also reflects those 2 positions as well as other changes, which I'll review shortly. Supplemental nutrition is defined as the food provided to a person or family, augmenting any food that they might have to create a full and nutritious meal. The department works with many federal programs to distribute supplemental nutrition to food insecure populations. 92% of the overall budget of the department in fiscal year 21 was the responsibility of the Food and Nutrition Division, who has no board representation. Further, in fiscal year 20, Nevada food security organizations received food valued at approximately $47 million, and almost none of it came from Nevada. We need to connect these groups producing the food and the groups distributing the food, and the board is a great place to start. Food manufacturing and processing also has no board representation, and yet the economic impact for food and beverage manufacturing sector counts for 83% of the agriculture industry in Nevada. Much of that is the manufacturing or processing of agricultural products sourced outside of the state. The board is not required to have any member with manufacturing and processing experience, despite the growth and importance of this sector on Nevada's agricultural economy, which is why this position is important. We do not have a connection between the production of plants, produce, and livestock and the processing and manufacturing of the same. We need to connect these groups. At the hearing of the Senate committee, the Board of Agriculture presented an amendment. We also heard from the industry about the importance of having a cattle industry specific and a sheep industry specific position. After the hearing, I worked with the board chairman on the amended language that you have before you today. And at this time, I'll pull up a slide for everyone because the changes can be confusing. I'm hoping you can see that. The amended language expands the board from 11 members to 13 members. It includes the 2 positions I have referenced, the supplemental nutrition distribution position and the position representing food manufacturing or animal processing. I met with the representatives from the Veterinary Medical Association that requested a position that can speak to animal health issues, and that seemed reasonable, so we included it. Based on public comment, we reinstated a position representing the sheep industry and the cattle industry. We kept a livestock position to offer representation to those industry members that raise other livestock, such as chickens, hogs, or goats. The total livestock positions are 3 members. We have 2 representatives in growing crops, providing representation to our specialty crop industry, but also the hemp industry and hay and alfalfa industry. I'll go ahead and stop sharing there. In conclusion, this bill seeks to promote diversity and provide a voice to those at the end of the supply chain, those that process and manufacture from agriculture goods, and those that represent the food insecure population that receive agriculture goods in the form of food. The bill also ensures that the current industries continue to be represented on the board so they can continue to speak on important issues. The effective date of these changes is July 1st, 2022. And Chairman, thank you so much. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much for the concise presentation and the slide highlighting the changes. With that, we'll open it up to questions from members. I believe first we have a question from Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you again for the quick presentation. I have a few questions. The first is I want to make sure that I've got this correct, that it's going to be expanded to 13 members, and yet when you take a look at number 2, there cannot be more than 2 members, maybe residents of the same county. Is that still accurate? Because I'm just a little bit worried about being able to actually fill the board if only 2 members with that being that large can be from the same counties.
Jennifer Ott, for the record, yes, that is the intention of the bill, as you have it before, is increased to 13 members and no more than 2 members from the same county.
So, thank you for that clarification. May I continue, Mr. Chair? Thank you. My second question, although I do see the piece of the letter in support from Chair Worthington from the Senate Committee on from the Board of Agriculture that was dated January 8th, has that committee or has that board actually had a thorough discussion regarding this, and have they also been involved in the discussions around this?
Thank you, Jennifer Ott, for the record. The board met in March. Well, let me back up. The bill was released at the end of November. It was presented to the board at the December 9th board meeting, and that was a board meeting where the board did have discussion on that. It was decided that the board did want to vote to not support the original bill. And that is what was included at the Senate committee, is that the board did not support and that they put forth an amendment. And the amendment was to return the board to the original makeup, just adding the 2 positions for supplemental nutrition and for food manufacturing and processing. That didn't accomplish the goals. And so, like I said in testimony, I met with the chairman of the board after the testimony of the Senate committee, and the department put forth the amendment that we were hoping addressed many of the concerns of the feedback that we received during that hearing. And there you go. So yes, they met on December 9th and also again in March.
And thank you. And I realize, thank you for that clarification, because I realize you're in a difficult position because you're the director, and yet you also have to bring forward and work with, according to NRS 561, you've got to work with the board. And the board is, if I'm taking a look at that language, NRS 561.105 1C shall advise and make recommendations to the governor or the legislature related to the policies. So that's where I'm kind of concerned about the additional individuals being added, and yet the board is not fully vetted in this. And so I don't know if there are representatives from the board that will be speaking later, but just thank you for that clarification, but just also wanted to bring that into the room. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I believe we have questions from Assemblywoman Titus next.
Thank you. And basically along the same line of questioning that my colleague was just on regarding the interaction of the director and the board. First, I want to acknowledge Director Ott that you did add back my sheep people that were very concerned about being eliminated entirely from the position on the board, as they were promised that position decades ago through some other legislative process and period of time. On that same NRS 561.105, the duties, rules, and regulations, it's already been pointed out that under number 1 down C, the board shall advise, but it's also the board shall establish the policy of the department. So I'm wondering if where this particular piece of legislation is going, and I share concerns that it hasn't really been the ag board, the ag board didn't really establish this policy, and I'm just concerned that there's a disconnect between the two, and I'm hearing it again, and I also have had some recent people reach out that they weren't involved in, yes, December and March, but not in the recent amendment. So I continue to have folks reach out to me, and a number of us that are concerned about policy versus board regulations and who's in charge of what, and are you following directions from your board, which you are, that I can see, the board is to establish the policy, and I'm not sure I'm seeing that in this particular bill. So I guess I just want more assurance that indeed this policy, that your department is following the policy of the ag board.
Mr. Chairman, may I respond?
Yes, please do, although I would just note briefly a couple of things. One is that, again, the policies are ultimately set by the legislature, by the legislative body, to be carried out, as well as the fact that the executive branch, the governor's office, and the department have the ability to bring forward bill draft requests for our consideration. So I just want to make sure that that's something for all the members to keep in mind as we have this discussion. But with that, Director Ott, if you would like to add some additional context and perspective on the conversations that have been had with regards to this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jennifer Ott for the record, through you to Assemblywoman Titus. I think that in talking about that portion where the board sets the policy for the department, I think that actually is the point, is that the board is charged with this, and not all areas of the agriculture industry or areas of under the purview or regulation or funding of the department are not represented. And I think that, if the board has this weighty responsibility, then it is important to receive feedback and representation from a diverse audience. If you do look back as far as policy and bringing that forward, the board does vote on policies that the department requests. If you go back and look at board minutes, that does occur. I'd also just note that the department does not set the agenda for the board meetings, that the board does. And so when it comes to policy discussions, we wait for the direction and the inclusion of those in the agenda from the board. Thank you.
Follow up, Mr. Chair. So thank you for that, and thank you, Chair Watts, for the question. Just to acknowledge that the Department of Ag is not the Department of Ag of my grandparents, and I understand that ag as in this nation and in this state has changed. And I understand that my grandparents would have never thought that we would be engaged in the food manufacturing or be engaged in the field of supplemental nutrition in our schools and all of that the Department of Ag has expanded to. And so I appreciate you. They're trying to bring us up to the 21st century, at the same time remembering the 20th century. Because it's a difficult mix, and so I appreciate what you're trying to do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that, and I think it is timely that we are hearing this bill after the work session on the previous bill, making some adjustments to the department where we got to see all of the different divisions and activities that the department is undertaking, and now seeing some of those roles and responsibilities being reflected in the proposed additions, as well as the expansion of the board to include those perspectives while also maintaining the perspectives that are currently established in statutes. I appreciate those remarks. Any other questions from members? All right. Seeing none, thank you very much again for the presentation, Director Ott. With that, we'll move on to testimony on Senate Bill 52. We'll begin with testimony in support. Seeing none in the room, we'll go over to Broadcast Production Services to see if anyone wishes to provide testimony in support remotely.
Thank you, Chair. To testify in support on SB 54, please press star
yes,
9 now to take your...
My apologies. Too many
No problem, Chair.
SB 50 somethings on the agenda today.
To provide testimony in support on SB 54, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in support at this time.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to testimony in opposition on SB 54. I believe we do have some folks in the room. Mr. Busselman, welcome. You may proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you also for accepting my request to speak in person. We appreciate that. For the record, my name is Doug Busselman. I'm the Executive Vice President of Nevada Farm Bureau. We are speaking today in opposition to SB 54, first reprint. We view the role and responsibilities of the Board of Agriculture in the context of NRS 561.105, offering oversight and direction to the Department of Agriculture. It is this view which caused us to seek an amendment to this bill in the Senate to clarify the need for the Board of Agriculture to oversee the regulations, fees, and policies related to the department. Nevada Farm Bureau testified that we would support SB 54 with our proposed amendment and the amendment that the Board of Agriculture formally adopted to support in their January 19th special meeting. This amendment by the board proposed to continue the current designated representatives in NRS 561.055. The board also supported the 2 additional seats that the director wanted to add, the nutritionist and the representative for food manufacturing or animal processing. Acting contrary to the direction given by the board and the amendments they supported, the director supported changes to the language in the bill to what you see now. The director also openly opposed the amendment proposed by Nevada Farm Bureau to make all regulations within the department fall under the board's authority to approve or deny. We believe that the actions in SB 54 bring us to a point which operate contrary to the authority and responsibility of the Board of Agriculture. The department's efforts to restructure the board is opposite to the role the board has in setting policy direction in all its forms over the activities of the Department of Agriculture. The disregard demonstrated for the board's authority is extremely troubling and would be established to be acceptable with passage of SB 54 in this reprint. We urge the committee to not consider this legislation for passage and instead maintain the present membership qualifications for the Board of Agriculture as identified in NRS 561.055.
Thank you, Mr. Busselman. I do have a couple of quick questions for you. Could you just provide for the information of the committee, when did you bring forward your proposed amendment in relation to the Senate hearing?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, Doug Busselman. We brought that amendment forward when the hearing was first held on SB 54 in the Senate committee.
So you did not bring it forward to the sponsor prior to the hearing?
No.
Thank you. Additionally, can you provide an example of a regulation that's been adopted by the department with which you've had issue and the Administrative Procedures Act has failed to provide an adequate remedy requiring board action on all regulations?
Mr. Chairman, again, for the record, Doug Busselman, Nevada Farm Bureau. We have not had an experience to this point with that type of thing. We do see where there are conflicts in existing statutes. Primarily, the example that I would give is in the brand inspection section of statute, where the law says that the director shall develop regulations. We believe that should go back to the board, as the board's coverage of their regulative authorities are covered in this other section.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Busselman? I have Mr. Ellison and then Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Busselman. You did reference to a letter from January 19th as when the board made a decision. Was that a letter that was sent, or what was that?
For the record, Doug Busselman, Nevada Farm Bureau. On January 19th, the board had a special board of directors meeting, and at that meeting, they adopted a formal policy which said that they would support an amendment to keep the current makeup of the Board of Agriculture as it was and add those two other seats.
Okay.
And that was an action that the board took at that meeting.
Okay. And is that letter somewhere, or is that request somewhere here on Nellis?
Mr. Chair, through you to Assemblyman Ellison. Again, Doug Busselman for Nevada Farm Bureau. I don't know that there was a letter. It was a formal action taken by the board. It's a board motion that was adopted.
Okay. I didn't know if there was a notification that went back to the Senate sometime that requested that. So that's what I was referring to. But I understand where you're coming from, and I do support the request. I just didn't see anything in here of that request.
Again, as a follow-up, Mr. Chair, if I might, Doug Busselman, Nevada Farm Bureau.
Go ahead, and you can go direct to the member.
Okay, thank you. There was testimony given by the vice chair of the Board of Agriculture at the hearing that was held, and he expressed what the board's actions were.
Okay. That's what I needed. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Assemblywoman Anderson, then we have Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for staying for questions as well, Mr. Busselman. Quick question. I realize that you do not serve on the board. Is that correct? So I see you shaking your head no. Do you remember, though, seeing an agenda item where the review of policies and procedures, as Director Ott had brought up, that is the responsibility of the chair? Do you ever remember seeing that as an item that has been agendized for the department, for the committee to be able to discuss?
Again, for the record, Doug Busselman, Nevada Farm Bureau. There have been agenda items that have been put on for discussion and for action, especially more recently than before. But there have been times where they have included those kinds of agenda items. The department also, for a number of meetings, presented policies that they felt that the board should consider, and those were also identified on the agenda in the past.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Busselman. I have a couple questions just to clarify about amendment. So putting the sheep person back on was an amendment. Who was that offered by? Do we know?
Again, for the record, Doug Busselman. The sheep person being returned to the board, as well as the additional cattle producer being reinstated and the veterinarian being brought on, were all presented as part of a work session amendment that was adopted in the Senate. There was no opportunity for any testimony or anything like that. It was brought forward in the work session and was adopted there.
Okay, thank you. So that amendment, it was accepted during the work session, or it was presented during the work session. It is now part of the bill. And then the amendment you referenced from the Farm Bureau, that amendment you said was offered the day of the hearing. And could you remind me what that was about? Because I just recall, I just did a bill presentation not too long ago. We had an amendment that we accepted just a couple of hours before our hearing. And I know that the original hearing in the Senate was, well, the last one was March 30th. So can you remind me what you said your amendment was, and it was not accepted?
Again, for the record, Doug Busselman, Nevada Farm Bureau. Our amendment was presented at the original hearing for the bill, the first hearing of the bill. And what it proposed was to amend 561.105 and to clarify the language, I believe in section E, which called for all regulations and policies that were under the direction or under the Board of Ag or the Department of Ag to go before the Board of Agriculture for consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? Thank you, Mr. Busselman, for staying up here and for your testimony. We'll go on to the next person in the room wishing to provide testimony in opposition. Welcome, Ms. Laxalt. You can proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, for the record, sorry, this is my first time here at this session. For the record, my name is Nina Laxalt, today representing the Nevada Cattlemen's Association in opposition to SB 54. I did provide a letter from the Cattlemen's Association, which I believe is on for the exhibits, and also distributed to each one of you. Their position on this bill has not changed. For my testimony, though, if I could, I'd like to take a little leeway and give you a little history about the Department of Agriculture and you know, what has transpired over the years without going through every single year. The board was created in 1961. So that was a few years ago, and for some of us that were still alive, or were alive then, it was 60 years ago. And in that time, there are a few things that have remained consistent, and there are a few things that have changed, and that happens with any course of legislation, of course. One thing that did not change were the number of cattlemen that served on that board. And if you look at the initial creation of the board itself, the purpose, which is still in their statutes, 561.015, states that the purpose of the board was created to promote the efficient, orderly, and economical conduct of various activities for the encouragement, advancement, and protection of the livestock and agricultural interests in the state of Nevada. So for 60 years, we had status quo, and as far as the cattlemen go. Now it is being threatened, and the problem is really been lying in the process that's been taking place. The cattlemen are the most impacted in this bill and have never been contacted for outreach from the agency. They did I believe, participate when the board took the position against adding 2 more members, and they also did not want to lose any members. Throughout this process, the Cattlemen's Association has not been approached. They have testified in opposition and believe that this change has really been done without any impact or without any outreach to many of the industries that are impacted by this bill, including some iffy information about really where does the board
If you could
stand,
begin
and that
to
is a
wrap
big
up, Ms.
question.
Laxalt.
I will do that. Senate hearing was laced with opposition. Some of those concerns were addressed. The cattlemen's concerns were not addressed. And with that, I will say that the Cattlemen's Association strongly urges your opposition to this bill. We have no problem going back, talking it over, and being part of the actual discussions that have taken place in this bill. But for now, 60 years of status quo, no input. We'd like to, we'd like to be part of that process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next person wishing to provide testimony in opposition to SB 54. Do we have anyone else in the room? Seeing none. Broadcast Production Services, can we see if we have anyone wishing to provide testimony in opposition remotely?
Testify in opposition on SB 54. Please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits 436, please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This is Jake Tibbetts, Jaketibitts, and I'm the Eureka County Natural Resource Manager representing Eureka County. So Chairman Watts, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to share our view on SB 54. Eureka County remains opposed to SB 54. We acknowledge the improvement in the first reprint that partially addresses some of our concerns on the original bill. We still disagree with any diminishing of range or semi-range cattle grazing representation on the board. We note that rangeland cattle ranching is the primary and most prevalent agricultural enterprise in the state, and is of great importance to Eureka County. We won't belabor the issue, but we're also very concerned with the process on how this bill came to effect. And we want to note that even without recasting of the Board of Agriculture as proposed, the board and the department can and should address the topics identified under the seats proposed to be added, but we don't feel this is the way to do it in this bill. So please do not move SB 54 forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Tibbetts. We'll go on to the next caller in opposition.
Caller with the last 3 digits 728, please slowly state and spell your name for the record, and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Watts and members of the committee. For the record, this is Marta McDade Williams, MARLAMC, capital DADE, WILLIAMS, with Strategies 360 and representing Churchill County today. I'm not disputing any of the remarks put forward by Director Ott. However, it seems if there are going to be changes to the State Board of Agriculture makeup and move it into an additional realm of policymaking, then that's a process that needs to be thoroughly vetted, and it hasn't been up to this point. This bill draft was not brought before the board members for consideration before it was submitted to the Legislative Council Bureau as a bill draft. Therefore, the board was not able to weigh in as required by NRS 561.105, which states the board shall advise and make recommendations to the governor, the legislature relating to the policies of the state concerning livestock and agriculture. Clearly, the director has authority over department activities, but the board is responsible for establishing the policies of the department. And I think that goes beyond administrative policies. I think it goes to how the state wants to move forward its livestock and agricultural industry. Finally, as noted, it's not clear what role these new members will serve on the board since they don't have a role with the, quote, encouragement, advancement, and protection of the livestock and agricultural industries of the state of Nevada, end quote, which is contained in NRS 561.015, the legislative declaration for Chapter 561, for the State Department of Agriculture, and which has been noted by a previous speaker that has been in place since 1961. We oppose SB 54 because we believe it needs to be fully vetted before the board during the interim and in a public setting to allow the various constituencies to weigh in and understand and then move forward if that is what is ultimately determined. I think there are a lot of changes that need to be made in statute to really gel this all together with a new board, and I thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. With that, we'll go on to the next caller in opposition.
Chair, there are no more callers in opposition at this time.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to testimony in the neutral position on SB 54, and I do see we have Mr. Krueger. Come on up. You may proceed whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Peter Krueger, representing the Nevada Petroleum Marketers and Convenience Store Association. Many in the committee might be wondering why somebody with the petroleum industry would be addressing you on this bill. We're in the neutral position, and the reason is that the petroleum marketers and the petroleum industry enjoy a seat on the Agriculture Board and have for more than 30 years. It's an important role that I think many people are unaware that the Department of Agriculture plays in fuel quality. And they, in fact, Director Ott's agency tests and determines fuel requirements, specifications. So our position while this bill doesn't change our seat or our position there, it is of extreme interest to us as we go forward. There will be a number of hearings, AB 411 that is coming from this House that has to do with ethanol will be heard in the Department of Agriculture, so that having a viable and consistent board that understands business, understands and listens to both sides in the case of the ethanol industry, both us and the others will really duke it out on whether 15% ethanol should be permitted in Nevada. So we think that, and I was very pleased to hear that Director Ott said that she understands and is fully supportive of all the provisions of NRS 561-105. That's good because we're going to be really, with her department, in the thick of things, not only on the ethanol bill, but several other bills. Just to let you know how important this is, in the last 6 or 8 months, some kind of a contaminant has entered the diesel fuel chain in northern Nevada. We think it's temperature related, but the department and through hopefully will become weights and measures again, as opposed to the consumer of equitability, which is not a word, has been very involved in trying to get to the bottom of this. So for those reasons, we're pleased to be neutral on the bill because it doesn't affect our position, but are very pleased that Director Ott understands and supports 561-105. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your remarks, Mr. Krueger. Seeing no one else in the room, Broadcast Production Services, can we see if we have anyone wishing to provide testimony in the neutral position on SB 54 remotely?
To testify in neutral on SB 54, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers in neutral at this time.
Thank you. And I do believe we have a very brief question from Assemblyman Ellison for the director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, the question is for you. Just wondering if we can get together and try to resolve the issue, if we can get everybody together and try to see if we can come up with a workable solution to this bill and propose an amendment and bring it back to you and see what you think.
Thank you for that, Assemblyman Ellison. As with any other bill, I encourage folks that have concerns to continue to bring those forward to the sponsor of the legislation. Feel free to include me in that correspondence as well, and we'll take things from there.
I appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you. With that, Director Ott, are there any closing remarks that you'd like to make? All right. It looks like the director is having some technical difficulties. Director, I just want to reiterate, if you can hear us, our appreciation for the presentation and answering questions today. I think with that, we'll just close the hearing on SB 54. And that brings us to the last item on our agenda for today, which is public comment. As a reminder, you must register to make public comment. We ask you to limit your remarks to 2 minutes. And on matters not related to today's agenda, but relevant to the committee's work. With that, BPS, can we see if we have anyone in the queue wishing to provide public comment?
To take place in the public comment queue, please press *9 now. Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no more callers at this time.
Thank you very much, BPS, for all your support. Thanks for those that came and joined us in person today, and members for all of your time, attention, and questions. Our next meeting will be on Wednesday, Cinco de Mayo, a las 4. And with that, committee members, we are adjourned.